It's Mike's Monsters, Godzilla-Rama. We're talking about Gojira from 1954 and Godzilla King of the Monsters from 1956. The iconic beginning of the longest-running film franchise in history. The first Godzilla movie and its American re-edit are ultimately what led to creating the largest pop culture icon in the world, with 35 plus movies as of this point in 2021. It's pretty intense because the subject matter that these films were birthed from is not the most fun thing to discuss. These movies are kind of honestly a bummer to talk about, and also incredibly intimidating. Though the subject matter sounds silly, a giant radioactive fire-breathing dinosaur from the sea coming out and destroying a city, it feels like you're watching a movie about a country and its people still recovering from a collective traumatic event, which you very much are. Gojira takes the message of atomic nuclear destruction and makes you feel like you're watching a documentary about if that power became an unstoppable living being, here to prove to you that man is not powerful at all. During this discussion, I will be photographing these figures and recreating moments with them from the film. It was kind of hard to start this video because the subject matter is so depressing and heavy, but I think very important to discuss. We're going to dive into some history, my opinions and thoughts on these films, and my experiences with seeing them for the first time. Let's jump back in time and watch Gojira and Godzilla King of the Monsters. Gojira was produced by Japanese production company Toho Studios, and was redistributed and re-edited by Transworld Releases for Godzilla King of the Monsters United States release. The film's production began shortly after the Lucky Dragon No. 5 incident, where a Japanese tuna fishing boat was contaminated by nuclear fallout done by United States thermonuclear testing in Bikini Atoll in 1954. The events inspired the opening sequence of the film. Directed by war veteran Ishiro Honda, friend of other well-known Japanese director Akira Kurosawa of Seven Samurai. Honda directed a cast and crew of powerhouse talents to make a perfect storm of a movie. E.J. Tsuburaya was the director of special effects, and would eventually become known to create a whole genre of filmmaking on its own, becoming the granddaddy of tokusatsu. Tokusatsu being the term used in Japanese filmmaking, with live-action special effects made popular with films like Gojira, with the use of miniature cities, landscapes, and models. All inspired by King Kong and Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, but instead of stop motion, it was a man in a suit, or known as suitmation. And the man primarily in Godzilla's suit is Haruo Nakajima. He went on to play Godzilla 12 times in the future of the franchise. During a flight, producer Tomoyuki Tanaka came up with the idea of Godzilla. He combined the idea of the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms and the recent events of the Lucky Dragon No. 5 incident. With recent news of all the nuclear scares and monster movies becoming popular around that time, he thought it was a perfect idea. And it turns out it was. Gojira destroyed box office records in Japan, beginning the age of giant monster movies. For the English version, Canadian actor Raymond Burr filmed scenes with body doubles mixed in. He plays the part fantastically. While this ultimately works, I find that a lot of the main messages meant to be delivered to the audience in this movie is lost in translation. Raymond Burr's character, reporter Steve Martin, is essentially there to help the non-Japanese speaking audience members understand what's going on in the plot and move it forward for us. The film carries a very tragic cast of characters. Takashi Shimura as Dr. Yamane, who wants to preserve Godzilla and study him, and a love triangle between Akira Takarada as Ogata, Momo Kyochi as Emiko, and Akihiko Hirata as Dr. Shirazawa. The film's often haunting and catchy score was composed by Akira Ifukube, who would go on to compose many of the music for Toho movies and Godzilla films. With all of these elements at play, you have a work of art. In my opinion, Gojira is a horror movie. Scenes like this have been burned into my brain since I was a child. It might not be jump scares or monsters popping around corners, it's just got this weight and feeling of dread. And to me that's scary, it's very real. This movie feels like a documentary. All of the moments with Godzilla are not fun, they're frightening, they're scary, they're uncomfortable. He's literally a walking manifestation of the bomb, and that is a pretty scary concept in my opinion. A walking nuclear bomb designed as a Tyrannosaurus Rex and Stegosaurus combined into one. A brilliant, brilliant design. Like many English-speaking fans, I only saw King of the Monsters first. I wasn't introduced to Gojira until much later in life, when Classic Media released it on DVD in 2006. I'd grown up always knowing King of the Monsters, and it had that little bit of a B-movie vibe, but not all the way there, because it still had that serious tone. But once I saw Gojira for the first time, it changed my whole entire perspective on the franchise. You could absolutely see the anti-nuclear message, and that if mankind doesn't stop its ways with destruction, that Mother Nature will show us who's boss. In the case of Gojira, it's a giant radioactive fire-breathing dinosaur. While in no way I can say I experienced anything close to it, it allowed me to see through the eyes of a group of people that have been through an absolutely horrendous event, with the 2 bombs being dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Once Godzilla finally makes landfall, it becomes a grand experience of tokusatsu effects. Miniature buildings, miniature tanks, miniature planes, everything meticulously built to make this man in a costume look like a giant radioactive dinosaur, here to destroy us all. They used low camera angles to shoot Godzilla from below, making him look a lot more massive, and slow shutter speeds to make him look like he's a lumbering giant beast moving with a massive weight. While in Godzilla King of the Monsters you see a lot of the destruction, in the Japanese version it really doesn't pull any punches. You see a lot of death and destruction in this movie, more than you would see in the newer and later Godzilla movies to come. While there's always destruction, there's still not a lot of death seen on camera. There's very haunting scenes like this one, where a mother is holding her children, saying, "We're going to go see Daddy soon in heaven," as you slowly hear Godzilla making his way towards them. And it's really heavy. If English-speaking audiences had known that line right there, I bet it would have added a lot more weight to the Raymond Burr version of the film. But yet, subtitles weren't that popular back then. Or scenes like this, where you see a hellscape in the background of Japan, very reminiscent to World War II. When I was younger, I never fully appreciated the message this movie was trying to tell. I'd been introduced to Godzilla King of the Monsters through my VHS copy of Fantastic Dinosaurs of the Movies, a compilation of monster movie trailers featuring dinosaurs and other monsters like Godzilla and King Kong. Eventually I would check it out from the library quite often, but kind of never pay attention until Godzilla was on the screen. That's because this is not a kids-friendly movie. This isn't the typical Godzilla movie that the fun and happy, colorful world that the franchise has come to be known for. Even the design of Godzilla's skin is meant to resemble the keloid scarring from Hiroshima survivors who witnessed the bomb. The Godzilla suit weighed around 220 pounds. It was incredibly hard to move in, made out of latex and bamboo. Nakajima and the other actors could only wear it a certain amount of time before passing out. Sometimes a hand puppet, sometimes a suit cut in half, but mostly a man in a suit. Nakajima would fall down during the first fitting, and that wouldn't be the last. Also, walking through explosions, pyrotechnics, hot lights above you, it was a real challenge to work in these suits, and I have a very high respect for the suit actors. Nakajima lost 20 pounds during the filming of this movie, also having buildings fall on him and so much more. It's crazy he went on to make so many more of these movies, and it's no wonder why he was so cherished by the fan base. I, like many tokusatsu fans, believe it's an underrated art form. The fact that these people sit and make these models or build these suits and spend weeks at a time on them to only destroy them later on film, to me is kind of a beautiful thing. They spend so much time making something only to destroy it. And in a way that's kind of represents the bomb that got dropped on Japan. They had to rebuild after having such a horrible thing happen to them. And they made an art form, a genre of movies out of something like that. A horrible, horrible thing that happened. And I think that's pretty amazing. Once we get to see the aftermath of Godzilla's Rampage, I wouldn't be surprised if you told someone that you were seeing World War II footage, that they would believe you. It's doesn't feel like you're watching a monster movie when you see this. I've personally experienced a lot of tragedy in life, so seeing scenes like this hit harder for me than probably others. The acting is incredible because this looks and feels and is true pain. You can see it in their eyes. No matter the general consensus, Godzilla films have fantastic casts of characters and plots for the humans. We find out that Serizawa has unintentionally created a new superweapon capable of destroying all life. Having shown Emiko the oxygen destroyer before Godzilla's attack, she now breaks his secret to Ogata, and they ask him to use the weapon on Godzilla. This plays really heavily into the anti-nuclear message that the movie tries to send. Knowing you've created something so horrible that can cause so much death and destruction after something so horrible has happened to your own country has got to be a very, very heavy weight on your mind and mental state. And obviously we see that with Serizawa and the way he reacts to the girls' choir singing after Godzilla's Rampage. This movie, Gojira, gave the Japanese people a way to cope with something that happened to them that is so frightening and absolutely hard to explain, because many people have never experienced something like this because of the obvious repercussions of what happens when you drop a bomb like that. I don't think anybody who was not living in Japan at the time or not Japanese descent will ever really understand what happened in the world there. The Godzilla franchise carries a lot of weight, and I think people forget that. Serizawa, having invented an equally scary weapon as the atom bomb, is persuaded into and comes to terms with having to use it. While not wanting the weapon to fall into the wrong hands, he destroys the evidence and takes his life along with Godzilla's. The weight of knowing he created something so terrible, and knowing he doesn't have Emiko's love, he sacrifices himself, just as he tells them to live a happy life. This is why you don't see this movie being called a happy Godzilla movie. This is why I can't watch this movie over and over again. It's a really hard one to take in. It doesn't end happily. It doesn't end with victory cheers. It doesn't end with a celebration. It's a truly tragic ending to an already tragic movie. You do not end with a happy celebration, but instead, everyone in tears. It's hard not to watch this movie and not end it in tears or just feel complete sadness. I'm a very empathetic person, meaning I can put myself in others' shoes and feel their feelings. And this movie makes me feel all the sad feelings. This is one of the things that I find so fascinating about the Godzilla franchise. They take something so horrible, so tragic, so evil, so nasty, so sad, and turn it into something beautiful. Something that eventually brought so much joy and happiness to so many people in the world. And I think that's truly beautiful. And that's also why I love this franchise so much. While it started in a dark place, it eventually brought so much light and happiness to so many. 60 plus years later, Godzilla is still going strong, and it's all because of this first movie. It's crazy to think where we started and where we are now. But it's no wonder why Gojira and Godzilla King of the Monsters are seen as some of the greatest, if not the greatest monster movie ever made. Thank you for watching this first entry of Godzilla-Rama, the new series that I'm taking my sweet time in making. I was trying to get a couple of videos out before Godzilla vs. Kong came out, but the real world started opening back up again and work started happening again, and being a photographer in the creative industry, it takes a lot of your time when you're actually getting pulled onto photo shoots. So I will have more of these coming out. I'm going to be doing every single Godzilla movie, and they will probably have the same production values, so expect more of similar setups and situations, and this is kind of fun and new for me, so I hope you're enjoying this. And if you have any suggestions or things you'd like to see, please let me know, because this is a whole new world for me. I've never made anything like this. I really cannot wait to see Godzilla vs. Kong. At the point of me uploading this video, it'll be less than a week away, and hopefully, it's a very good one. It sounds like from the early reviews that are coming out, we are in for a treat, hopefully. We'll see. If not, hopefully we get to see Godzilla punch King Kong and the other way around, which probably is going to happen in this movie, and hopefully it's cool. If not, we have had plenty of Godzilla movies that are not seen as the best, and I think Godzilla fans know how to deal with a movie that is not the greatest. So whatever happens with Godzilla vs. Kong in the next coming weeks, or for those who've already seen it, hopefully you enjoy it, but if not, life moves on and we will hopefully get more Godzilla movies in the future. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you like this. Like and subscribe. All the fun stuff that you're supposed to do on this YouTube thing. What is it? Liking, subscribing, hit that bell. I don't know. But if you want to support, please hit like, subscribe. You can see me on Instagram, Twitter. I'll post all the links to those below in the description or in the video. I don't know how any of this works, but I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. Thanks for watching.